Hello and welcome back to the Public Eye Business Podcast, brought to you by Granite Exchange. I'm your host, as always, Sarah Travers, and throughout this series I'll be speaking with local entrepreneurs and business owners to learn more about how their companies have come to be, to gain insight into their growth and find out, crucially, how they continue to innovate. So wherever you get your podcasts from, remember to keep an eye out for all new episodes and subscribe to stay up to date. Well, today I'm joined by Mairead Mackle, MBE, and CEO and co-founder of Tarasis Enterprises. Mairead, I have waited a long time to get you into the podcast studio. How are you today?
Doing great, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
So as always, Mairead, we'll talk in a minute, but a little bit of background first of all on Mairead and her business. Mairead is a multi-award-winning entrepreneur who owns and operates a wide range of businesses across several industries, including care, support, housing solutions, renewables and construction, all of which are under the umbrella of Tarasis Enterprises. With a robust reputation and a proven track record spanning more than 25 years, the businesses within the Tarasis Enterprises suite share the same core mission, vision and values. Strategically led by a multidisciplinary management team, the vision for Tarasis Enterprises is to always think beyond business, creating innovative solutions for the future that tackle real social issues, including homelessness, healthcare, housing and healthy ageing. Mairead, you are not long back from Buckingham Palace after receiving your MBE, so huge congratulations. And so I just want, first of all, if you can give our listeners a wee bit more information about yourself.
Okay, Sarah, well, I'm delighted to be here and hopefully I'll be able to offer some sort of snippets of information that will be of benefit to somebody. So I'm a mother of 7 wonderful children, as you know.
Did you hear that, everybody? See, I didn't put that into the introduction, but yes, Mairead is a mother of 7.
And I suppose I would also identify as an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, an innovator, an investor, because of the wide variety of businesses that I'm involved in. My background is I was brought up on a farm in Fermanagh, and the middle child of 8. And my husband also is from a family of 8, so we have a massive family between us. So I think just for me personally, I love making every day count and love spending time with my family and friends. I do have a passion for, as you mentioned, business for good, and I'm really delighted and privileged to be in a position to, use what I have got to make an impact, I suppose, on the world through business.
And to help others as well. You're always sharing advice. I mean, there's not an event I go to at the minute where you're not on the panel, and people hang on your every word. But that's not a comfortable position for you. I mean, you're quite a modest person and you've achieved so much. What inspired you to start out in business?
So way back many years ago, I qualified as a podiatrist. So it all started with feet. What happened was I had everything planned out, I suppose, in my life. I was going to get a job in the health service and work as a podiatrist, and that would be set for life. But the problem is, when I went to do all the interviews, I couldn't get a job. So then I had to start, whether it was the interview skills were really poor, Sarah, I'm not so sure. But anyway, it forced me in a new direction as I talk about defining moments, and I decided then to set up my own business. And I was fiercely independent back then as well. I always wanted to make my own way in the world, but it wasn't something I'd ever thought about business, but I was sort of forced into that position. So I set up a podiatry practice in Armagh and found that I had one son back then, and I found that it was really, really restrictive because I couldn't get out, if I needed to go to school, if I needed to, do anything with him or whatever. So I decided it wasn't for me. The 9-to-5 model wasn't for me. So I decided to look out and find something else that I could do, and I came across home care independent living at that stage, and that sat really well with my values because it was a new service. It was a service that we would be able to provide people the choice from going into long-term care to be able to stay at home. So that really sat well with my values, and I'm really passionate about it. And a few years later then we set up home care housing. I joined forces with my husband and we set up home care housing. And another defining moment then, about 10 years ago, we decided to invest in renewable energy. So I think over the years, we took a look during lockdown at all the different businesses that were involved in, and we realised, whether by accident or design, there was a common thread of social impact throughout them all. So that's why we decided to pull them all together under the Tarasis umbrella in 2021. So it's all about creating innovative solutions for the future.
I have to ask you, why did you choose the name Tarasis?
Well, Tarasis is an unusual one. So again, when we looked at everything we're involved in, we said, right, let's pick a name. And I wouldn't be very good at that. So my husband actually picked the name. We were heading off to a wedding in Donegal one day and said, let's bring all these different entities under one umbrella. And then he picked the name Tarasis, and it was from a saint called Saint Tarasis from the 7th century. And Saint Tarasis was, he believed in peace and unity. He led a very strict and simple life, and he spent a lot of his money and time on feeding and giving comfort to the poor and vulnerable. And then his feast day was the 25th of February, because that was the day me and my husband met many years ago. So it's got a little bit of romantic twist to it as well.
And where did you meet?
Where did we meet? Oh, we met, I think it was Carrickmacross. Is that long ago? I can't remember.
But it was a,
But
it was a love story that blossomed.
A defining moment.
Absolutely. And you're always evolving with what you do, but it's all about that social impact. I can imagine that the last couple of years during the pandemic, if you're involved in offering care and the home care settings, that must have been a huge challenge, because talk to us now about the numbers that you actually employ.
Within Tarasis Enterprises, we have a number of other organisations that fit within the different pillars, and they're like home care, independent living. We've got home care housing, home care support, Fabrico and Callan Renewables and Milford Estates. So there's a number of different organisations all fit under there, and with a common theme of making a positive impact on society and business for good.
Can you talk us through them all? Because we've got the different names.
Yeah.
So what exactly do they do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so the home care independent living it provides social care. So we provide about 1 million hours of care across North and Southern Ireland. We in home care housing, we provide housing services for people in housing crisis predominantly, and we provide, that's about 3,500 beds we provide every single night.
Oh my.
And then in our renewables division, we produce our own green energy, and we have built a biomass plant about 10 years ago, and then we have plans then to build another one in the next year. And that's really we currently provide enough energy to power and heat about 500 homes. And in terms of regeneration as well, we've a keen interest in listed buildings and regenerating old buildings. So we have a number of buildings, including our head office, that is like about 100 years old, and then we're planning to regenerate it over the next year.
Oh my gosh, you never stop. What's a typical day in the life for you?
There's no such thing really as a typical day in our house, because obviously with the kids and everything that's going on, it's very hard to say what's typical. But I suppose what my ideal day, if it was all going according to plan, is, I'd get up about 6:30. It used to be 5:30 before I had the twins, and then sleep's too important to me now, so I push on to 6:30. The kids get up then for 7:30 to go to school, the little ones, and then I like to go to the gym then 2 or 3 days a week then from 9 o'clock, which is a real privilege as well, with the flexibility to do that. And then other days when I can't get to the PT, I would go to maybe for a walk at lunchtime with my daughter. And the rest of the time really it's about, going in to the office, connecting with the team, meeting with the senior managers, looking at all the different aspects of what we're involved in. And I work very strategically. I've learned that over the years. I didn't do it at the start. So I try to, have a maximum of 10 hours a week that I'd work operationally. And the rule is, if I've done any more than 10 hours a week operationally, then it's time to delegate or take on somebody new to, build and grow. So about 2 hours, well, I spend Friday with my mother. My mother lives in Fermanagh, so I'm again in a privileged position that I can go and spend every Friday with her. And then, so the other 4 days then really, I try and do about 2 hours a day on operational stuff. And then, but the rest of the time, yourself, Sarah, when you're involved in a business, you're always sort of you're thinking all the time, you're strategically thinking all the time, it's new ideas all the time. So the rest of, my time I would be spending on looking at new projects, looking at, new ideas, innovative things, like we're providing a new housing solution and we're developing that at the minute, like it's a new modular housing solution because there's obviously a housing crisis all around the country. So we're very excited about that, and then we're building a new renewable energy plant as well. So we spend a good bit of time really strategically looking at that and what that's going to look like.
It's getting the right people, isn't it, to run all of these areas of your business? How difficult is that?
Well, I think it's very difficult to get the right people, but what I have found is that you attract people who share your values and your purpose and your vision. I find now as well, people want to work for an organisation that has a bigger purpose. So that's something that we can offer people because of our purpose of business for good and social impact.
Yeah, so it is just, it's developing leaders.
Yeah, like my strength is developing leaders, and the way I've done that is really, like, I believe that it's a leader's job to share the vision and then let your good people get on and create that reality. The people that I have in my leadership team are far better at doing the things that I am, and so I give them autonomy to develop their own sense, their own style of leadership, and then in turn I would mentor them then to try and develop leaders within their department.
This podcast is sponsored by Granite Legal Services, a niche business and immigration law practice located in the heart of Newry City. Granite Legal Services provides legal advice to both individuals and companies alike across a wide range of industries, from employment, commercial or corporate law matters to immigration law. Granite Legal Services focuses on providing legally sound, practical advice to its clients. To get in touch, visit www.granitelegalservices.co.uk or contact 028 3026 2200. I think as human beings, we're kind of programmed to maybe like people who are similar to us, but everybody has a different leadership style. You can't turn people into clones of yourself.
No, and I think, when I look back in the early years, I felt I needed to control everything myself. But then that was a defining moment to say, no, I can't do that. And I think that you have to allow your leaders to develop their own way of leading. So within each of our departments, we would have like our KPIs or OKRs, but it doesn't really matter how they get there in terms of flexibility, in terms of what they do with their team. They just, use their own style and build their own team their own way. So
what do you find most challenging about being an entrepreneur?
Well, I think being an entrepreneur, like every day you're facing is a challenge, but it's a challenge worth doing. To be an entrepreneur and then to, build an organisation, I suppose the biggest challenge you have is that you feel really responsible for the people that you employ and the people that you care for. So that can be a challenge. But I've had lots of challenges over the years. I mean, every day is a challenge, but I like to talk about defining moments instead of challenges and reframe that. And defining moments are times in your life when you've had to step in a new direction. And there's certain defining moments that have shaped my organisation. And way back at the start, when it was very chaotic, for want of a better word, I was pregnant with my second daughter when I started home care. It grew really quickly. So one of the defining moments I found was when I'd read a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, because even though I was very operational at that time, the book taught me that if a business isn't giving you more life, it's taking your life away. And if it doesn't give you more freedom, it's not a business at all. And then I realised I didn't really have a business at that stage. And then that was a defining moment and helped me to move in a new direction. And other defining moments for me were when I went to India in 2010 to study corporate social responsibility, and I fell in love with the whole idea of business for good on that trip because I didn't even know that was a thing. No. And then I came back from that trip and set up the Tarasis Foundation, or the Eye Care Charity. We've two organisations within that foundation now. The Eye Care Charity, which is about kindness without limits, and then evolve, which is about empowering women to be women of power. So that was like a defining moment. I suppose a personally challenging moment for me was when I had the twins.
So can we just paint the picture here? You've got 5 children already. You're expecting, well, there's a 6th pregnancy, and then lovely news.
Lovely news that we were expecting twins. And of course I was afraid to tell anybody I was expecting twins, because I said my mother said she'd leave the country if I had any more. I was afraid to tell the older ones as well. But anyway, it came to the time I had to tell them. And I'd taken on a new general manager, and I thought, well, I'm not going to tell him that I'm having twins until he accepts the job. And he did accept the job. And I thought, well, this is fine. I'll have 4 months to train him up. And then if all else fails, then I've Caroline, my most trusted right-hand woman. She can, take over and train him as well. But then she came in the following week and said she was expecting twins as well.
What is in the
Something
water?
in the water up there. But
oh my gosh. I mean, we're laughing now, but at the time, Mairead, what was that like?
Well, it was an exciting time for us as a family, obviously, but what we didn't realise is then that the babies were born early at 30 weeks, and then that was a challenge.
Oh, goodness. And did you just go into labour?
Yeah, so then I had to go into, the babies were neonatal, and it was this really scary time for everybody.
So little boy and little girl?
Little boy and little girl.
What weights were they?
They were 3, 3 and 3.12.
Oh,
but they've done really, really well. They're wee fighters, and they got out after 4 weeks, and they're in P3 now, so they're laugh and play all day and keep us on crack. I suppose from a business point of view, it was quite a challenge because you're just out of the equation altogether.
Yeah, you couldn't be there at all, could you, at that time?
And then I realised really that, and I realised then, and it was like realised again then during the pandemic, that it was about the culture that we'd built up within the organisation. As I was saying, like, we attract people into our organisation that share our purpose, but it's really like at times like that when you can't be there that you really see that your team can really step up to the mark. Right. We have a culture within the organisation called One Team, One Dream, and then it's all about the bigger purpose, and I think that has really stood us in good stead, and everybody just stepped up and got on and did an amazing job.
Yeah, I want to just ask you a little bit more about that time during the pandemic, because obviously the spotlight was absolutely shining on our most vulnerable, older people who needed care, and this is what your organisation had to do. And at the start, we had issues over PPE and protection. How stressful was that for your staff? And as you're responsible for all of these people.
Well, really stressful at the start because everybody had to, we had to get people to work from home. We provide about 6,000 calls every day, so you can imagine the logistics of that. And then we were really scared that we'd run out of PPE, so we had to, we got some containers in from China, so that was something new for us as well, to make sure that we had all the necessary equipment for our staff. But it was really just about communication, I think, was the important thing. And I'm still amazed that, everybody just, we didn't close our door for one day throughout that time. We operate 365 days a year because people are dependent on us. And it still amazes me and inspires me, every day to think, what they went through, what they did, and everybody, was looked after.
And do you feel you're stronger now as a result of what you've been through as an organisation?
Yes, I do. I think that we all pulled together really well, and it was really about communication because we were leading blindly, and as new information come in, we just shared that. We just set up extra communication channels, and I was also really thankful that my daughter, who is a trained doctor, and she was working with me at that time, and she was able to help to guide any of the PPE and all that sort of stuff. So we got there and we managed, and I'm very, very proud of our team and everything that they've done over the last few years.
You've recently been to Buckingham Palace to receive your MBE. How big a moment was that for you?
So it was a very exciting day. Me and my husband went. We met Prince William, who's very friendly and very down to earth and very engaging. We had a lovely experience. Met all the people there who were there for all different reasons, and it was really about getting the family all together afterwards as well, and really celebrating the whole day. And met my sister in London and all, and her husband and kids, and we all had a brilliant day together.
I mean, you spend every Friday with your mum. You've already talked about that. How big a role model has she been to you in your life?
Well, she's been a huge role model, and as I talk about, she's the first leader that we ever have been exposed to because she has serious leadership qualities. she's also a little feminist. So I think that inspired. My dad was a feminist as well. We're very much into equality for the boys and the girls. And that was our first experience really of, you know, equality. And they wanted us all to be educated. They wanted us all to do really well. So like she has been a huge inspiring factor, I think, in all of our lives. But and now she's continuing to be an inspiration to the grandchildren.
Talk to me a little bit more about the Eye Care charity, which you founded in 2010. Can you tell us a little more about the work that you've been doing, the invaluable work?
Well, Eye Care has really been set up. It's a registered charity, and what we did was because our mission in Tarasis is about community impact and societal impact, we decided to take that a step further and set up a Tarasis Foundation, which is funded entirely from the different businesses. And Eye Care is focused on acts of kindness. Our whole foundation has got two sort of main things. It's equality and kindness. So what we do is we just fundraise. Nobody gets paid out of Eye Care. We fundraise across our 14 operational regions, and then we provide what we call an act of kindness to somebody within that region, a vulnerable person who's in need of maybe it's equipment, you know, medical equipment or whatever. So that's what that's all about.
That's wonderful. And then also evolve, because that's a massive movement for you as well, helping other women coming up through female entrepreneurship or doing anything, but helping them in business. Why did you feel that was so important to set up?
So Evolve It, we've set it up as an educational platform, and also as a way to challenge cultures and things that are holding women back in business. Maybe like, for instance, like the VC capital that, you know, what female founders can get access to is only maybe between 1% and 6% across the island of Ireland. So there's things like that we can maybe influence change and influence maybe societal change as well.
What goals personally are you still working towards achieving? You know, what do you want to do for you, Mairead Mackle? And then we'll look at the goals for the business.
Well, I suppose as a mother, my goals in life really is to help to be there with my children, and I don't see the point of building a business if you can't have the flexibility to be at home. I mean, I'm hugely excited to, you know, be there for them and, you know, help them on their own journeys, whatever that may be. In business, and we're always looking to innovate. We're always looking for new ideas. You know, we have a new housing model being launched. We have a new renewable energy plant. I say I'm very passionate about regeneration as well. So we have a number of really exciting listed buildings that we're planning to regenerate over the next few years as well. So there's lots of exciting projects in the pipeline, and we're investing in different things like sustainable food. Along with my husband, we're investing in a few new ideas.
You never stop. The brain's ticking all the time. And then it's what about getting that investment? What advice would you give to anybody listening to this now? And you've talked about the struggles that perhaps female entrepreneurs have in getting and securing investment. You had quite an interesting story.
Yeah, well, I started my business from home, from the kitchen table, just myself. So I didn't need a lot of capital investment. And so what I did was I needed £10,000 at the start to get going, and I went and talked to a local bank manager who very kindly gave me the £10,000. Now, I'm not sure if I had the business plan all very savvy, but that time there was more flexibility around that sort of stuff. It's probably increasingly difficult now to get any sort of capital funding, especially if you're a woman starting a business, but it got me started and
to get going. And how do you define success then, Mairead? What does success look like to you?
Success to me is freedom to innovate and follow whatever investment or whatever, you know, dreams I want in terms of different businesses or whatever.
And can you reveal any of those to us at the minute?
Well, we have an old gate lodge. One of the projects is it's the first house in Northern Ireland to have hydroelectricity. So it's an exciting project. So we're hoping to regenerate it. It's like a 13-acre listed estate. I suppose our dream for it is really to have it as maybe the first like listed estate to be powered completely by renewable sources. So that we're keeping in the pipeline.
It's definitely not putting the feet up anyway. What would you say has been your biggest aha moment?
when I got involved with Lift Ireland, and I met a lovely lady, Joanne Hessian, and she introduced me to a US author called John Maxwell, who's a values-based leader, and he wrote a book called The 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership. So that whole thing really resonated with me. And one of the laws that he talks about is the law of the inner circle, and it's about building a close and trusted team around you for success, both in business and life. And I really believe that that was one of the things that I've done. I have a brilliant team at work, brilliant team at home. And so that was definitely an aha moment. And then I suppose India as well. Going to India was another, about using business for good, and I got introduced to that whole concept of corporate social responsibility.
You've had an amazing life and career to date. There's obviously plenty more to come. And what I love as well is you've brought out a book, and it's actually recording the other voices of leadership. So it's Evolve Voices of Leadership, Female Leadership. Did you enjoy that project?
Love that project because I really enjoy people and their stories, and it was a great opportunity for me to pull together some of the amazing and inspiring women I know from all over the world. And I asked them all then to just contribute to a book that I had created on their voices of leadership. And it was really how they lead their teams, what their views are, and things that they learned. So I really enjoyed reading all their different stories and put together. So it's called Voices of Leadership. We launched it in November.
That's right.
At the Women in Business Conference. It's a great read. Yeah. It's a great read, yeah. And hopefully we'll do, some more of those over the years as well.
It is invaluable, and that sharing, it's so powerful. That's why I love when women, they get together and they feel free to discuss and ask and get help. And you love giving back.
I suppose I've been involved in different things. Like I'm on the board of Women in Business. I've went for a week with Vital Voices to Paris, where they help grassroots leaders all over the world. Female leaders to make an impact in their community. So I would really enjoy hearing the impact they've made. I've really enjoyed helping and supporting people to do the things that they do really well, and maybe it's the mother in me. I think that those networks are really invaluable because we form the likes of Vital Voices. We have a call every month, and we help each other, we share ideas, and I think women especially have maybe not had that traditionally. So now in business, when women can get together and really share ideas, because we're all sort of dealing with the same things, and it's where you can help and support and mentor or do something for somebody else, then you get it back tenfold.
Mairead, the purpose of this podcast is to inspire existing business owners and ambitious entrepreneurs to grow their business by offering insight into the success of businesses such as your fabulous Tarasis Enterprises. What advice, final question, would you give to people who may have a business idea but have no idea where to begin or are unsure as to whether the risk is worth taking?
Okay, well, I think there's a number of things that I would, consider important. And I think within a business, it's really important to have your culture right, because culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think innovation is really important within an organisation as well, because innovation keeps a business alive. If you're not growing, you're dying. Things like your people power, get the people around you who are bought into your purpose, and I think it's important as well that you never lose sight of what your own purpose is as a person, and you have to always stay true to yourself. I think, as I said earlier, there's never been more opportunity for young people to get involved in business, and that we encourage them to have the confidence to step out and take that risk, because as I always say as well, if you don't try, you fail by default. So get out there and do it. Then for more established businesses, I think it's important that you get the balance right, and it's not always easy to do. So somebody once said to me, don't be so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. I remember reading, actually, it was the average life is 900 months and you spend 300 of them sleeping. So you have about 600 months in your life if you're lucky. So I think it's important that you don't be so busy working that you forget to make a life. And I would always say, as my daughters keep saying to me, put it out there to the universe and you'll get all of the signs that you want and head in that direction. So we're all about that.
Oh my goodness, I have scribbled and scribbled and scribbled and scribbled and taken loads of notes and now wondering how many hours I've got left. But Mairead Mackle, thank you as always. A pleasure to have you in the Public Eye podcast studio today. I hope you've enjoyed tuning in, everybody. Mairead, just Google her. You will be seriously impressed. Join me again for another fantastic episode of the Public Eye podcast very soon. This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service for our team using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.